You built two of the world's great companies. Before you became the first chairman and chief executive of ITT Industries, you headed the avionics, defense, manufacturing, forest products, insurance, communications, and information services parts of the business. After 16 years at ITT, you moved north to Canada as president and CEO of Alcan. In an extraordinary 5 years, you grew that company from $9 billion in revenue to $20 billion and created Novellus, an independent $8 billion producer of rolled aluminum products. You served 3 U.S. presidents on the Defense Manufacturing, Science and Business Boards, and the National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee. But your true passions lay elsewhere. Racing vintage automobiles, you were Driver of the Year in 2004 and Endurance Champion the last 3 years. You collect and repair antique clocks, and you are also helping move the world closer to sustainability. You chair the 190 Corporation World Business Council for Sustainable Development and chaired the Prince of Wales International Business Leaders Forum, the top 2 organizations in the world pressing for sustainable development. At Alcan, you created the Alcan Prize for Sustainability, which grants $1 million each year to an NGO, and started a high school water quality and conservation competition. Your newest initiative is a competitive sustainability scholarship for Canadian high school students. If the world's environment is better for future generations of SIGEPs, Travis Engen will be the guy to thank. Tonight, we start that applause, Brother D. Travis Engen, by conferring on you the Sigma Phi Epsilon citation.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that my parents are no longer with us. My mother in particular would have liked to hear something like that about me. But it's also fortunate that my daughter has come along, because my wife couldn't be with us, and she will give you the minority report later on, but not at a microphone as I have. I was asked over the course of the last couple of days several times, sort of how did I get involved with SIGEP and why did I become a SIGEP? And I think it's Gary actually has been using my experience to fundraise, but it's relevant. And the answer is somebody asked me. I was asked. I was invited. SIGEP, for me, came at a very interesting point in my life. I just turned 17 years old. I was just starting at MIT. My father was in the military for some 38 years, and I grew up moving. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't think, frankly, I didn't think everybody else wasn't doing the same thing. I mean, when you're growing up, you simply don't know that your setting is different than someone else's. But the reality is I went to 17 schools before I graduated from high school. And in high school alone, I went to 4 different schools that ranged in total population from 17 to 4,000. In 4 different parts of the country. And so when I got to MIT, the 4 years at MIT were twice as long as I'd ever lived any place, and 4 times as long as I'd ever lived any place in one stint. The 104 to 110 members of the fraternity became a population that I bonded with in a way that I'd previously never had the experience to do, because I've been in so many different settings, other than, of course, bonding within the family. So it provided a framework for me, which is added, obviously, to the framework I received growing up. And that became what I have pursued in my business career. The very simple mantra, do the right thing. Now, it's not just an ethical do the right thing. It's what's the right path forward, given the circumstances and the resources that you see. Fortunately, in my life, figuring that out has not been terribly difficult. So I've been able to put my energy into getting other people to understand the need to do that, providing frameworks, management systems, basically empowering increasingly large organizations of people to do what I hope I could do if I were in their setting, although I frankly know that most of the people that I've worked with over my career are far more capable than I am. Maybe I'm more persistent, to take the phrase of one of our earlier recipients. I simply don't give up. I keep trying and trying and trying. Now, many people have, in the last few years, said, well, you're an environmentalist, because the work I've been doing on sustainability in particular has got increasing public notice as the topic of sustainability has become much more interesting to society broadly. But I'm a deep believer in the role of business in society. And if you think about economics in any simple way, you realize that the driver for increasing per capita income, or GDP, is productivity improvement. Any economist, there are probably a few that made it in here, will tell you that. Business is the only segment of society that lives and dies by increasing or failing to increase productivity, doing more with less. And so business, aside from being the implementer around the world, and whether business is owned by individuals or private owners, owned in stock market schemes of some sort, or even owned by government enterprises, business around the world is the implementer and is responsible for virtually everything that you see. And with that comes incredible responsibility. And that's why I think it's very important for businesses to have models, business models that are sustainable, both sustainable economically, to continue to grow and prosper, but also sustainable in terms of their interaction and impact on broad society and clearly the regions and resources and other things that are part of their business activities. So I came to the topic of sustainability as a businessman, believing fundamentally this is a business topic essential for not just today, but for the future. Now, the final thought I'd like to leave you with is a little bit about my own career and how I matured in some of my thinking. The first job I had, I really wondered whether or not, before accepting it, I could do that. Could I master the technicalities? Was I capable of the challenges that I could identify or that might be ahead? The second time I changed jobs quite a bit, by the way, I had the same mentality. Can I do that? Can I stretch? Can I, have I learned enough to be able to do this new thing? And by the time the third one came around, third job change, I realized that the first two times I had really screwed it up. Not that I couldn't do the work, but there wasn't anybody who could actually say what needed to be done because time, circumstance, and in some cases my own presence changed what needed to be done. And from that point on, I made my decisions about career on the basis of, did I want to work with this group of people? Did they share similar values? Were they striving for a consistent set of things that made sense? Were they ready and willing to undertake things they didn't know about, to do change, for example? And ever since then, my business career, although I started as an engineer, my business career has become that of a people engineer. Selecting people, working with people, and whether it was the insurance business, the finance business, I even was a director of Caesar's World, a gambling company. Manufacturing businesses of all kinds. It's all about people, which then brings me back to SIGEP. SIGEP is all about people. I thank you for what you gave me when I was a young man. I commend you for what you're doing today and what you're going to do in the future. And I thank you deeply for the citation.